Imagine you're driving a car due north at 40 miles per hour for 2 straight hours. Then you suddenly turn around and head south at 30 miles per hour for another hour. If I asked you to calculate exactly where you ended up compared to your starting point, how would you do it? And maybe more importantly, how is that number completely different from calculating how much total gas you actually burned on the trip? You see, these aren't just textbook word problems. They are real-world scenarios of accumulated change.
So, by the end of this explainer, you will understand the net change theorem, the formula behind it, and exactly how to apply it to real examples like motion and fluid consumption. We're going to unlock how calculus handles quantities that are constantly shifting.
Section 1. The motion problem and net change. Okay, let's dive right into this. When a car moves forward, it's covering positive distance, right? But when it moves backward, it covers negative distance. Your final location is what we call your net displacement. The forward movement and backward movement essentially cancel each other out. But to figure out how much actual ground the car covered, and therefore how much gas it used, we need calculus to add up all those tiny individual moments of change, completely regardless of the direction.
And that brings us perfectly to the formal rule. The net change theorem states that the new value of a changing quantity equals its initial value plus the integral of its rate of change. Written out, that means f of b equals f of a plus the definite integral from a to b of f prime of x dx. So, in plain English, if you know exactly where you started, that's your f of a, and you integrate your speed, or your rate of change, over a specific period of time, you are going to find exactly where you end up, your f of b.
Now you might be asking, why do we take the absolute value to find total distance? Well, let's compare the two concepts. Net displacement is just the integral of velocity. In our car example, 40 miles per hour for 2 hours gives us 80 miles north. 30 miles per hour for 1 hour south gives us negative 30 miles. 80 minus 30 means we end up exactly 50 miles from home. That is our net displacement. But total distance requires the absolute value of velocity. We literally do not care about the negative sign when we're calculating total ground covered. The absolute value turns that negative 30 into a positive 30. So, 80 plus 30 equals 110 miles of total distance traveled. If you mix these two concepts up, you're going to end up stranded on the highway with a totally empty gas tank.
Section 2. Step-by-step problem solving. Let's make this a bit easier to digest with a concrete example. Imagine a particle moving along a line with a velocity function of v of t equals 3t minus 5, measured in meters per second, over the time interval from 0 to 3 seconds. Our goal is to find the total distance it traveled.
Because we want the total distance, we absolutely have to find out if the particle ever stops and turns around. Step 1. We set our velocity, 3t minus 5, to 0 to find the t-intercept. Solving for t gives us 5/3 of a second. This is the exact crucial moment the particle reverses its direction. Step 2. We split our integral into two distinct parts. From 0 to 5/3, the velocity is negative, so we take the negative of the function to force it to be positive. From 5/3 to 3, the velocity is already positive, so we leave it alone. Step 3. We integrate both parts separately using our basic power rules, evaluate them, and then add those results together. When you do the math and the dust settles, our total distance is exactly 41/6 meters.
Wait, this is super important. We just talked about particles and cars moving back and forth, right? But what if the changing quantity has nothing to do with distance? How does this exact same math apply to something like, say, boat fuel? Let's test our understanding here.
The beauty of the net change theorem is that it works for any rate of change. Suppose a motorboat consumes gasoline at a rate of 5 minus 0.1 t cubed gallons per hour. We want to know the total gas used in the first 2 hours. Step 1. We set up our definite integral on the interval from 0 to 2. Step 2. We integrate the rate function itself. The antiderivative of 5 is simply 5t, and the antiderivative of 0.1 t cubed becomes 0.1 t to the fourth over 4. Step 3. We evaluate this using our boundaries of 0 to 2. By plugging in that 2, we get 10 minus 0.4. The answer? The boat used 9.6 gallons of gas. Notice how the theorem just automatically handled the fluid consumption rate. It's the exact same mathematical principle as displacement.
Section 3. Andrew's ice boat. Now, what's really interesting here is how we can apply this theorem to situations where the rate of change suddenly shifts its behavior entirely. Top ice boats can go 5 times the wind speed, but our guy Andrew is an intermediate sailor, so his boat travels at exactly twice the wind speed.
Let's say Andrew is out for an hour. For the first half hour, the wind is picking up, governed by the function 20t plus 5. But for the second half hour, the wind is completely steady at 15 miles per hour. How far does he actually travel? Well, step 1. Since we're calculating his distance, we have to double those wind speed functions, because remember, his boat goes twice as fast as the wind. Step 2. We set up two separate integrals, one from 0 to 1/2 hour using that increasing wind function, and a second one from 1/2 to 1 full hour using the steady wind function. Step 3. We integrate and evaluate both parts. The first half hour gives us a certain distance based on the changing wind, and the second half hour gives us another distance based on the steady wind. Add them together, and Andrew has traveled a total of 25 miles. Just by splitting the interval, we easily tackled a tricky piecewise function.
Section 4. Shortcuts for even and odd functions. Now that we've really nailed down the basic idea, let's move to some incredibly powerful visual shortcuts that are going to save you a massive amount of calculation time. Whenever you're integrating over a symmetric interval, meaning you're going from negative a to positive a, always look at the shape of the function. If it is an even function, meaning it's perfectly symmetric across the y-axis, you literally don't need to do the full math. Just integrate from 0 to a and then double your result. It's perfectly mirrored. But here's where the real magic happens. If it's an odd function, meaning it's symmetric about the origin, the area above the x-axis perfectly cancels out the area below the x-axis. The entire integral automatically evaluates to exactly 0, no heavy lifting or complex math required whatsoever.
Okay, let's do a mini pop quiz right now to see if this clicked. Keep those rules in mind. What is the definite integral of the function -5 sine of x evaluated from negative pi to positive pi? I'll give you a second to think about it.
The answer is 0, and this brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of odd functions. Sine is an odd function. Because our interval from negative pi to positive pi is perfectly symmetric, the positive curve on one side of the y-axis is entirely wiped out by the negative curve on the other side. If you can spot this, a problem that might normally take a full page of messy trigonometry simplifies to a single 0 in just a matter of seconds.
Section 5. Summary and final thought. Before we wrap up, let's summarize the really key takeaways so they stick with you. Number 1. The net change theorem tells us that a new value equals the initial value plus the integral of the rate of change. Number 2. Always pay attention to what the problem is actually asking for. Net displacement includes positive and negative direction, while total distance requires you to integrate the absolute value. And number 3, keep your eyes wide open for symmetry. Odd functions integrated over a symmetrical interval will always equal 0.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. Whether it's a car driving north and south, a motorboat burning through its gasoline, or an ice boat racing across a frozen lake, calculus is simply the mathematics of accumulated change. Once you know exactly how fast something is changing, you hold the power to map out exactly where it's going. Think about that the next time you're watching your car's speedometer dial go up and down. In our next lecture, we're going to tackle how to integrate incredibly complex functions using a technique called substitution. You definitely won't want to miss it. Keep practicing,